Dear listeners, the World Health Organization, in its 2023 report, shared that globally 1 in 6 people worldwide is affected by loneliness, with significant impacts on health and well being. Loneliness is linked to an estimated 100 deaths every hour. That is truly concerning, considering we live in a highly connected world. Our social ties and connections have grown weaker over time, despite the overwhelming presence of technology all around us. Something must be truly amiss. To know more, I reached out to one of the world's experts on executive loneliness and a highly sought after leadership coach and thinker, Nick Jonsson. Nick is also a best selling author on loneliness, and his transformational journey is a testament to addressing the loneliness epidemic. We talk about corporate loneliness, vulnerability, resilience, importance of support groups, values of social connection, and much more. Stay tuned for more.
Greetings, Nick. It is an absolute privilege to have you here today. Nick, I'm sure when it comes to introducing you, people are at a loss of words because your reputation precedes you. You are the world's number one thought leader on executive loneliness. You are a much sought after certified master coach who has been shaping leadership thinking across countries, industries, and countless organizations. You are an international best-selling author on the subject of executive role, and you are also a business leader and entrepreneur who set up your own practice, your own largest peer-to-peer global network in Southeast Asia and Singapore. And if that's not enough, Nick, you are a 1% Ironman triathlete. So wow. Thanks for being here, Nick.
Fantastic to be here, Priyank. So thank you so much for that warm welcome as well. It's really an honor.
Thanks, Nick. Uh, how did this journey start? I'm so curious to know this inspiring transformational journey that you sought in 2 decades back, I guess. But how did it all begin?
Right. So I was born in Sweden, educated in Australia, and then I spent the last 21 years living and working in Southeast Asia, working my way up the corporate ladder, and eventually 10 years ago, leaving the safety net of a corporate world and running my own business. Through that journey, though, I have my ups and downs, and like everyone else, life is a roller coaster. And perhaps I had some highs and I had some really lows. I hit my rock bottom in 2018, and it is out of that and on the other side of that really I've seen, an holistic success and the life that I was always looking for, and I'm so grateful to have found it.
Wow. So this is so interesting. If you don't mind sharing, uh, what really happened? What events happened? Why did you decide to, let's say, transform yourself? What pushed you?
I could say that it wasn't really by choice. I mean, if I'm looking back at the corporate world, I was a high achiever, working really hard, getting all the promotions, hitting the targets, getting the KPIs and, the bonuses that I was looking for. And I did a good job. However, at one stage there in my corporate career, I start to challenge myself, question myself, is this really what I want to do? Yes, the salary was good. Yes, I hit the targets, but I wasn't happy. It seemed like, I was doing everything to please others, pleasing the bosses, but it wasn't really what I really wanted deep inside me. With that, then I got a lot of self-doubt, anxiety, panic attacks started to kick in. And before I knew it, I changed my healthy diet to fast food and pizza, and my gym membership to bar stool. With that, then, starting consuming more alcohol to sort of numb my feelings and, to get over the stress and everything else. And with that, it was like a downward spiral. And before I knew it, I was in a deep depression. And with that, then I resigned from my job. And I also at that time filed for a divorce. And that led me to become very isolated and very lonely at that stage.
What helped you come out of it, Nick?
Well, I was going down for about 3 years. So from 2015 to 18, I didn't manage to succeed with much apart from going through all my savings and almost making myself bankrupt. I gained about 30 kilograms. I was so unfit I could hardly move. I could hardly walk at that time. Failing, yeah, every company I took jobs, jumping from job to job, nothing seemed to work. And it was only in 2018 when, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired that I decided for the first time in my life to be quite vulnerable and quite open and honest about the challenges I was facing. So I asked for help, and that was the turning point.
Like, wow. I think that a lot of us go through this journey, like you rightly identified, and we don't speak enough about it. So thank you, Nick, for being the role model of someone who has been able to come out of it with flying colors, in a ray of hope and a beacon of hope, rather, for a lot of people who are also on similar paths as you would have imagined. You just didn't come out of it, Nick. You also went ahead and shaped the journeys of several others who were still in the rut and who have a lot to be thankful today because of your coaching and your guidance. When did you realize this, Nick, that you were not alone in this, that there are others as well who sought after help and you could take their journeys with you, help them?
Yeah, so as I was coming into recovery and as I was getting better, I had almost like a V-shaped recovery because as soon as I asked for help, I got the support I needed. I saw doctors. I even had to go through a detox to stop alcohol. And then I also joined a support group, like a 12-step support group for people with alcohol problems. And having come into that fellowship, which is now 7.5 years ago, as I walked out of that meeting, I haven't had an alcoholic drink since. I didn't have the need anymore to drink because I was drinking on my emotions, my feelings, my isolation. But once I started to talk about it, then I didn't need a drink anymore. So I was relieved from that. And then I thought, well, there must be other people who also feel similar. And as I was starting to explore this, I found more and more people who was going through similar feelings, and it didn't have to be that they used alcohol to as a coping mechanism. Others used drugs, other social media. I came across food addiction, sugar addiction, online gambling. There's so many different methods that people are coping and using that then to release all the pressures. But at the end of the day, all they need is to speak and take ownership and talk about it. And that's then the space that I started to go into in 2018 to really say that it's okay to say that we are not okay. It's okay to take ownership for the bad habits and the addictions that are perhaps destroying our lives and our families. Because once we do that, recovery is possible.
That in itself is so inspiring that once you choose the path to really improve on yourself, the recovery, anything is possible. So, Nick, very curious to know this. Why does loneliness exist so much in the corporate world? It's as if they decided that no, this is a niche in itself. This is a beast in itself that you really wanted to address. Why this executive loneliness?
Yeah, loneliness exists in the workplace and it's getting from bad to worse. The reason is that people are so scared of losing their job. We see that there's so much transformation in the workplace, especially now with AI. There's so much automation. There's always new waves of layoffs coming, So you see that, many of your colleagues are being let go, and then you start to know that perhaps you're up next. So everyone is doing everything they can to fight for their life, to show to the decision makers, the leaders, the bosses, that they are the ones to keep. And therefore, they will not be vulnerable. They will not show any weaknesses. They will demonstrate that they have all the answers, that they are tough, that they are resilient, that they can work around the clock, that they will meet every deadline and do everything that is demanded of them to deliver. And when we find ourselves in that game, then politics and backstabbing and just looking after ourselves, because we basically fall into survival mode and then we cannot think about others. There's a lot of talk about psychological safety and company culture and so on. That's all great. I'm a certified psychological safety ambassador myself, and I work and train teams in this. But the challenge is, at the end of the day, if a company are letting go people, no one will feel safe, and therefore people just isolate and looking after themselves, and therefore no one really is there to ask for help. And I remember looking back at my career, what started with all those challenges I had. I remember that we were pitching for a big project and I felt overwhelmed. There was a lot of formulas in Microsoft Excel, and I thought that I was not really on top of it. I was anxious and worried that it might be some mistakes or errors in there, but I was too scared to tell my boss. I was too scared to tell my team working below me and asking them to check it, because I thought, well, I'm the boss here. I should have the answers. I should make sure that it's correct. And then we handed in this project anyway. And I started to then get anxious, thinking maybe there was some mistake in there. And that's what led me eventually to resign from the job. I thought it's better I resign and take control of this situation than I'm caught that I made a mistake. And that's the kind of culture that we see increasingly now as a result of, scaling down and all the layoffs and so on.
You're absolutely right, Nick. I remember reading Gallup speaking about it on their article on how engagement has only been sinking since the past couple of years, and how, let's say, with the new generation coming up, there is more increasing report of people not finding purpose and meaning anymore. And you speak a lot about leading with purpose, leading with authenticity. You role model that. So, for any leader today who is listening to this, Nick, or who has come to you, Nick, for help, seeking help, in exactly a similar situation that you just described, how would you navigate that? What would you tell that leader?
Yeah, I talk a lot about vulnerability. And I also say that, this has to start from the top. If we want to change the culture and make people open, more honest about, their feelings and discussing the challenges, then the leader needs to set by example. And I want to also say that what I'm saying here is not that we should come into the office and share all our personal challenges and really open up and share what is happening to you in your personal life. That's not the point. My point is, professional work and professional life is professional, and it is about taking ownership when you don't have the answers. Or in my case, when I felt anxious about the Microsoft Excel, that I should feel that this is a company where it's okay to say that I don't know this, that I can have some support with this, rather than being scared to be judged. And as a leader then of an organization, you can actually create that culture by communicating openly and leading by example. When you feel that you don't have the answers, just tell your team that you would need some support and you're not sure, and having a coaching mindset rather than being a directive, a strong, firm leader, having that, mindset and being open to feedback and so on, and creating that culture. That is what is needed. And once we do that, then team members will naturally be not so scared of making mistakes, not so scared to ask for help. And that's when magic happens, and no one will feel isolated, especially also for the leaders themselves. They will feel more connected and closer to the team.
And that is such an important, let's say, foundation to build, a foundation of trust, of saying that maybe I don't have all the right answers, but let's find out together. And over a period of time, we have seen this transition in leadership, where, let's say, from know it all, you're trying to orient towards learn it all, like Satya did it with Microsoft. Yet, Nick, we also see a lot of people struggling with things like imposter syndrome, where they still go ahead and try to say, fake it till you make it. So, which means that I need to find all the answers. I need to have all the answers. Otherwise, how do I get promoted to that elusive job or to that position? The only few of us who can make it. And like you rightly pointed out in your articles and your much sought after books, that especially amongst men, you have this taboo of not speaking about loneliness and these struggles. How do you deal with these kind of, let's say, issues?
Yeah, I say that, we all need safe spaces, and I'm talking about personal safe spaces and professional safe spaces. So when it comes to professional safe spaces, we all need to think about, who in my organization can I trust? Are there a few people that I can trust, that I can be open and vulnerable with? And then develop and grow the trust in these relationships. And then professionally, also externally, join mastermind groups, peer groups, have coaches and mentors who you develop relationships and work with in the good times, so that you have the trust and the vulnerabilities there, so that the day when you are faced with a challenge, you are naturally going to open up, because you're going to have that monthly mentoring call anyway. You're going to have your bi-weekly catch up with your coach, and naturally when you ask the question, so what's happening in your work now, you will therefore mention what it is. That proactiveness is what is needed, and that's not something that I had. That was not the culture that was provided in my company. I was given a mentor who was someone who was ahead of me in the game, sitting in another office. But that person also had a say in my next promotions. That was the person who also gave me the KPIs and the performance and so on, and had to sign off on my bonus payment and so on. So of course I did everything I could on the calls with him to impress him and show how great I was, instead of sharing the challenges I had. But he didn't ask me necessarily about the big challenges, and he didn't lead by example and making me feel safe to share that. So again, that's what a leader can do. When we come then to safe spaces on the personal front, we need to all ask ourselves, and who are the people I can trust? Are there a few close friends where you can develop the relationship to go a little bit deeper? I'm also chair and running a men's group myself, and I would encourage everyone who's listening to belong to a men's group, or for the women to belong to a women's group, because we have also some challenges which could be, gender related, and it's important that we therefore practice our vulnerability on a frequent basis to share what's happening in our life. In our men's group now, just this week alone, there's someone who lost a job, someone who find himself in a low case, someone who lost his mum, and we're there for each other. We're there to support each other. We're there to share the good and the bad in life, and that is something that indeed we shouldn't wait for a crisis. We need to develop and have all these things in place in the good times.
That's such a powerful thing to say, Nick. And of course, having those support groups where you can lean on someone's shoulder, you know that you're not alone, goes a long way. So really thanks, Nick, for doing this. If I have to ask you, Nick, what are some, in your opinion, challenges that are unique to, let's say, men as a gender, that some taboos that are unique to men that you're trying to break?
Yeah, what I found, and in my research for the book Executive Loneliness, also in general, women tend to have a few close friends who they are a bit more vulnerable with. They will be a little bit more honest, they will have a bit more trust, they will go deeper when they have conversations. Men naturally tend to not be so vulnerable. Men perhaps spend time with their friends, maybe watch some game on TV or do some sport together, have a good time together. But many men, or most men even, I should say, are quite uncomfortable to be vulnerable, don't want to bother the other men. And that is something that I've seen all around the world. So we need to change that, and we need to therefore, become more vulnerable with a few close friends and so on. I even heard in one seminar I joined where they were talking about that this is animalistic instincts, how we are as men and women. And they share that if you look at a savanna at the zebras, what is happening if a lion is approaching and start to run after a herd of zebras? The men will run by themselves in all kind of directions, while the women will sort of group together and protect each other. So I think that is something in that we can see in us men as well. That we tend to run for our lives when it's a threat, instead of going together and get closer together. And I see that in a lot of men, when they're faced with some challenges, they just go silent. You might see them disappearing, not responding to phone calls, emails, or WhatsApp messages for maybe 2-3 weeks. You will not hear them. You're not even sure if they are alive. And then suddenly they pop up again. They've been in a black, dark hole, basically in ghost mode. And that is what I see constantly with the men I'm interacting with some of them who are going through difficult times. And the women wouldn't so easily do that. They will naturally perhaps open up much earlier, not disappearing for weeks like that.
Such an accurate depiction, Nick. And how do you help them in such cases with men who, for example, go into those dark wormholes? They are not able to come out of that. Oh, how do we help?
Yeah, so I've had a few men who behaved like that in the last few weeks alone. The first is to have them part of a group before, so that you built up some connection, some rapport in the good times. There's some trust there, so that they will hopefully open up and share what's really on their mind, and then checking in with them from time to time. And I also said, with the WhatsApp group we have for the men, where we have everyone to share the daily gratitude list in the morning, as a check-in, to show that, I'm here and today I'm grateful for this. If some of the men go quiet and I don't hear from them for a few days, then we know that there's something there. And all we can do then is check in with them, let them know that we are there when they are ready to it. Sometimes we might just need to shut off, from the world for a moment. But if it goes too long, then I think, we need to get to that person and try to get them to speak out. What is it that is happening in their life? And all we can do then is to listen to them, and don't try to judge, don't try to jump in and give suggestions, solutions, but be a good listener, summarize back what they told you, and then just share that, if there's anything I can do to support you, then let me know what that is. And that's all we can do.
I mean, I don't think that there are enough thank yous, Nick, for what you're doing. Honestly, I think there's a lot of people who need help like that, especially in times like that, with the increase in number of layoffs and men still thinking that they'll become the sole breadwinners and they have a lot to carry on their shoulders in certain countries as well. Nick, to you, when did vulnerability stop being a weakness and it became a strength?
Yeah, so for me, that was in 2018 or 2019, basically, because I learned that the more I was open, the more I was vulnerable, the better things went. I know some people say that, is so important because no one can touch you if they don't know. But that is also a very isolated place, and that's not where I want to be. It's only when I took ownership for my own struggle and when I shared it openly that things improved. And that's when I felt understood, and I then found out that there was other people who gone through similar, challenges, and then we feel normalized, which is so important for us as human beings. And we have to remember that we are, after all, social animals, and we need social health as much as we need physical and mental health. We need social health. We need perhaps 2-3 hours a day of social connection with other people, or we're going to get sick. So it's we need to remember that and be quite disciplined and structure our life accordingly.
Always a social animal, and that's what COVID also taught us. That's what we were craving for during those moments. Nick, what was your inspiration towards becoming a 1% Ironman triathlete? How did that start about?
Yeah, so I was already doing some triathlons before I went into my challenging period in my life. For 1 or 2 years, I'd done some marathons. I did one full Ironman, a few half Ironman events before that. But it was a bit of a struggle. I was working by myself, and also doing the sport by myself, training myself and trying my best. I trained very hard, dedicated, disciplined, but it was difficult. I struggled badly with some of the races. It was very painful. But after my recovery journey, then I realized that, being vulnerable and asking for help is a strength. Then I applied that also to the sport of triathlon and Ironman, which meant I joined various triathlon groups, swim academies, running clubs, cycling clubs, triathlon training camps. I signed up with coaches, and I got training plans. And as you do that, then when you're vulnerable and you're open and you're asking for help and you are curious, then you can learn a lot. And now I've been in the sport for 10 years, and perhaps I've done those 10,000 hours, which it takes to become an expert or very good in a field. So that's what it is. Just keep learning, keep being curious, and asking for help. Then it works for all areas. It works for my career. It works also for the sport.
And it's so amazing how you made sure that those certain principles of vulnerability, of the courage, of seeking for help, when you apply it, whether it's a corporate world or whether it is in the world of sports, you always excel. So, I mean, really, thanks, Nick, for showing us that. And if you really have to go back to your coaching conversations along similar lines, right? So what are some of those conversations that you would think that, wow, that surprised me, that I didn't think going to the conversation that I would hear that, but it just reaffirms my belief in all these aspects that I thought of.
Yeah, well, I'm hearing from a lot of men how challenging it is for them in the workplace and how difficult it is for them also to then manage the expectations of partners at home. I work with a lot of men who are currently going through a divorce or have gone through a divorce, and it can be that they didn't have the skills to discuss the work-related challenges at work, and neither do they have the skills or know how to mention it to the wife without the wife being upset, angry, terrified, or in panic mode. So many men are keeping secrets, about the challenges at the work to everyone, including the partner. And we even hear of cases when the husband might even have been terminated from the job, but they are not comfortable to tell anyone in the whole world, including the partner at home, that they lost their work. And in fact, one of the gentlemen that I'm coaching right now, he had two failed companies going towards bankruptcies, having a lot of debt and so on. And he kept these secrets for his wife for many years until they were going to travel on a vacation to one of these countries. And he had to bring it surface that he might even be arrested at landing in this country because he had some unpaid tax bills and so on there. And that's how far it seems like it has to go for many men before we speak. So the message is clear here. We need to, take these challenges as they come rather than letting them compound over a few years and become big, big, big issues. Grab them when they are small, be vulnerable about them, take ownership, talk to people in your near community who can help you, support you, coaches, mentors. And then I think all our partners deserve that we are honest about it and that we dare to take these difficult conversations. I think it's much better than finding out a few years later.
Absolutely, Nick. Absolutely. And that is what I was also pondering on, Nick, that in the age of AI, when people are talking about, let's say, ChatGPT and other agents becoming therapists on by themselves, does it help the cause? Do you think that people would go ahead and talk to these AI chatbots and agents and then be able to find their way at some point in time?
I think it's helpful. I have seen many of my customers who perhaps have worked with some AI tools and it have given them some clarity back and forth. In fact, some of the men I'm working with might never have come to me for coaching and therapy unless they would have actually first had conversations with ChatGPT. Because fortunately enough, AI is smart enough to say if you're sharing something that's deeply challenging and personal, yes, it will maybe guide you a bit, but one of the advice will be to talk to a professional also who can be there to support you.
Well, that's satisfying. I mean, it's a huge relief to hear that that you've seen that and it's directing people in the right direction.
Hmm.
After all of this, Nick, after achieving all of this that you have, and what I can gather from this conversation is it's not for you, it's for anyone who is going in the same journey that you once went through. And that's such a selfless piece in itself. If one fine day, Nick, you had to wake up from your bed and you realize that all your dreams have come true and this is the ideal world that you're living in, what does the world look like?
Yeah, it would definitely be a world where people are, not trying to show off, but rather trying to be there to support each other and help each other. And it is by giving back that we come alive. And I've seen that in the world of recovery, recovery groups and so on. I've seen that people are there to give back and support each other. Our world used to have more of that. Perhaps when we more belong to, different kind of religious institutions and so on, but that's falling apart. So there's a big gap in the market now, and therefore we need to be quite disciplined to find some groups or associations or charities or so on where we can actually give back.
And that in itself has also been seen as one of the largest predictors of success and satisfaction and contentment by a Harvard longest study on happiness, I guess, where you see that it's not the money It's not your glory, your rise in your corporate ladder, but how much you are contributing to the larger piece, the larger story. So really, really,
Absolutely.
yeah. Any as we come to the end of the conversation, Nick, and as we wrap up, your final piece of advice to everyone who is listening to this, your timeless principles.
Yeah, it would be to journal or write down, whatever challenge is on your mind. And I call it in my book, and it's the first step called surrender. With that means that, take ownership for what it is. If it's a bad habit or an addiction that is creeping in, write down what that is and then think, who can I have a conversation about that? And take that step today and ask for help.
There's so many takeaways that I can really gather from this conversation in itself. But the ones that stayed with me today are one is be vulnerable. There's no shame or there's no fame about it. You are human at the end of the day. You have your own challenges, and there's nothing wrong in not knowing or not having all the answers. Second is to find a group that you can connect with. You're not alone in this. You have shown that, Nick, to all of us that people can do it. It can be done. And your ever rising numbers of people who are affiliating with such groups, seeking help, seeking support, is only a testimony that we all can use all the help. And third is aligning with, I think, a deeper purpose of looking out for each other, building trust, and helping each other. If you have survived the journey and you're thriving somehow, pay it forward. Why not? So,
Wonderfully summarized. I couldn't agree more with that.
I mean, thanks, Nick. I really, really thank you. I think all of us, the listeners today, are very grateful to you for starting something like this, where people can connect with and find a purpose, find a safe space to speak about it. Thanks for being part of this, Nick, and thanks for showing the way.
Thank you, Priyangshu.